To the north of here is the Dolgellau Gold Belt, a much larger geographical band stretching from Barmouth up towards Snowdonia. It's there, above the Mouthach Estuary, that new explorations are being made at Clogau St David's Mine, which produced most of its gold in the late 19th century, but has been dormant for over 20 years. Our reporter Hugh Jenkins met George Frangiskidis, Executive Chairman of Alba Mineral Resources, the company doing the research to determine whether it would be economically viable to open the mine up once more.
So we're walking into the upper adit. As you can see, there are rail tracks that lead in. That used to obviously take the ore out of the mine. And we're starting to do sampling. As you can see, it's pretty extensive, and we can walk within this adit and the lower adit for, a good 15-20 minutes. You'll see eventually that there will be some offshoots left and right where the old miners were chasing the veins, and it's the quartz veins that we're most interested in because they host the gold that the old miners used to just chase by visual sight and follow it wherever it took them.
There's the rest of the gang.
Hi.
Hello there.
How are you? Howard Baker.
And what's your job, Howard?
I'm the technical director of Alba. The work we're doing at the moment, we're literally going into some of the old worked out areas. Here you can see where they followed the quartz veins.
Straight up, that's going up about 30-40 metres.
And there's workings on lower levels as well.
Right.
The main workings are further down within the mine, but where they hit these areas with the quartz, that's where the gold pockets were. So at the moment we're just doing a clean-up exercise of the existing mine area for broken stock material that lies sort of directly below and adjacent to the areas that were historically mined. And this is the first step in trying to assess whether there's the amount of gold left within the mine. We mark the wall from the start and end point of the sample areas, so when we get the results it's easy to find.
Right, so he's put a great big gold J.
Yeah, this is the Jack Williams stope, the JW sampling area. Jack Williams was one of the original workers of the mine. He had one of the areas named after him, and his family still live in the area.
We'll hopefully be naming one of the future mined areas the Howard Baker stope.
Short than the George Frangiskidis.
A lot of the things we're doing are really first time in terms of systematically exploring the Dolgellau Gold Belt. So we've been doing that for the best part of the last 12 months, really. Soil sampling across several miles of the gold belt, but we've still only covered around about 25% of it thus far. But already we found basically soil samples we take, send them off to the lab, and we're looking for low-level anomalism, so low-level gold in the soil.
How deep down do these soil samples come from?
Literally from surface.
Really?
So if you saw us in the field, you think we were planting potatoes.
And if you find an anomaly...
It means it's certainly very possible that below the soil, in the hard rock, there is a gold deposit to be found. So what we've found so far is concentrations of these low-level gold anomalies in the soils in certain areas, and we found 10 of those. And what's exciting about that is that all 10 are not associated with any significant historic mine workings. So that's really good, because what we're looking at is potentially virgin ground, virgin gold deposits.
Your advantage these days is you've got a whole host of technology behind you that your predecessors didn't have.
They wouldn't have done. I mean, there's lots of trial workings across the Dolgellau Gold Belt, and that's just people chancing their arm. There's some outcropping, try and dig it out, see what they can find. They might have struck a bit of gold, but these are quite small scale, but never with any science behind it, really.
When this was in big production in the 1800s, it yielded a fair amount of gold. Could you put a figure on it? Something we'd understand?
Yes, we can. I mean, I think the Dolgellau Gold Belt in total is about 120,000 ounces, about 3 tons of gold. And most of that came from Clogau. And if you think about today's gold price of about $1,500 an ounce, at today's prices, that would fetch something like $150 million. But the beauty of Clogau gold is that it fetches a premium on normal gold rates. It's scarce, there isn't much of it around, helps a heck of a lot with the economics of what we're trying to do here. Of course, it is a supply and demand equation, and the more gold that you produce and put into the circulation, then you don't know what impact that will have on the market. But we again would control that, because once we're in production, we are the only producers of Clogau gold.
We'll head down to the main lode area, so that's where the majority of the 120,000 ounces came from. So this is also some areas we fixed up recently. Now we've put in some protection against these old shafts that go down to the lower levels. This is the John Hughes lode, one of the real hotspots in the mine. And what's unique is, the main ore body runs in the direction we're walking, but the John Hughes lode splits off in a totally different orientation. It's the only example in the mine where this split happens like this. And because the miners were literally just following what they saw, and they did very little excavation into the walls, there is a real opportunity for more chutes like this that go off at angles to the main workings. So we're going to explore. You can see just by the nature of the rail track and the way it moves around, they were following the geology.
There's quite a big chunk of quartz up there that didn't bother pursuing that bit.
Well, there might be a level above there. So, you have to leave material in the roof between levels. We're just getting to the guts of where the real mining happened in the late 1800s and early 1900s. Just watch your bottom there. And you can see the quartz vein has got particularly wide, 10 metres wide at this point. This was the gold.
People would have been hammering away in here.
Yeah. Very busy.
Lots of railway tracks running everywhere.
The mine is in remarkable condition and the rail line does still work. We need to prove up that there's enough gold left within the mine to warrant a considered effort on mining going forward. So, there's still a lot of technical work we have to do to justify reopening the mine. The mine itself is fairly small by normal mining standards. It will be a fairly boutique operation, so talking up to sort of 10 people, the mining team, it's not going to be a huge operation.
Which members of the royal family have had gold from here?
Well, as far as I know, it's a tradition that dates back about 100 years now, I think from Queen Victoria onwards. So it's basically been Clogau gold in the main, but Welsh gold throughout, even up to Meghan's marriage. The Queen has had, I think, a donation in the past of a nugget of gold, and from that the Queen's jewellers have been producing these wedding bands, and we certainly hope to be producing more and also giving a donation. I mean, in terms of what will make this a commercial proposition for us, we certainly first need to find some gold, and once we've found the gold, then work the economics through of that and how much it's going to cost us to mine it and process it. Where we sell it, we could end up going into the jewellery business. You never know.